So today we're going to be looking at probate and executor fees. This is generally something you talk about when someone passes on, and unfortunately not many people know about this. It is important to understand. As with all my videos, this one slide that we're going to go through is available for download. You don't need to take masses of notes. You can simply listen and read as we go through the slide. So, probate and executor fees. As I said, probate is what happens when somebody passes away and their estate, so all the assets and their liabilities, goes into probate. Probate is a legal process in which a will is reviewed to determine whether it is valid and authentic. Probate also refers to the general administering of a deceased person's will or the estate of a deceased person without a will. So effectively what happens is that the probate process is a process whereby somebody called an executor, and we'll go through exactly what an executor is in a moment, reads out the will and tries to understand exactly what should be left to who, and if there are any outstanding debt, who needs to be paid. It can take quite a long time, and that's why having a will in place and making sure that you structure your assets well is very, very, very important. In most instances, an individual who has passed away has a drawn-up will. The will must be carried out as per the deceased person's wishes by someone called an executor. So the executor is the person executing the wishes of the deceased person. An executor can be anyone. It can be a close family friend, it can be a family member, but is 9 times out of 10 a professional. Sometimes people draw up wills with banks or with lawyers or with specialists. Capital Legacy is an example of a company that specializes in wills. So those are the types of individuals who would be deemed executors. An executor can charge the deceased individual's estate an executor fee, which can be as much as 4%, including VAT. So on big estates, the executor fees can be quite hefty. However, if it's a close family friend or family member, they don't levy an executor fee. But a bank or a lawyer or professional companies that set up wills and everything generally do levy an executor fee. Please be aware of that and try and make sure that you reduce this as much as possible if you are getting a professional to do it. If the executor of the estate is a family member or friend, then they may elect not to charge executor fees. However, it's a professional engaged in these that is engaged to carry out the process of wrapping up the estate, fees may be incurred. There are insurance type products where you can avoid paying executor fees altogether. So for a fixed monthly fee, you effectively don't have to pay a professional to their executor fees when the person passes away. So that's one way of getting around executor fees. The other way is getting the family member to do that. It is important to understand probate is a lengthy process and can take anything from 12 to 24 months and longer in some instances. That's on average. Many estates, as I say, take even longer, especially if there's a dispute on the deceased or the deceased's wishes are unclear. It is also important, therefore, that the person making the will has considered the financial requirements of the beneficiaries, as funds will not be immediately available. What does that mean for you? If you're the person left behind and your husband, your dad, your mom, whoever it might be, your gran, hasn't made explicit provision to have some form of cash available, you could find yourself in a very sticky situation. That's why financial advisors have a job, and that's why lawyers have a job, and that's why estate planners have a job. It is important to make sure that when somebody passes away, it has been thought out and planned correctly. Not a lot of people give a huge amount of thought to when they're going to die, and in a lot of cultures, it's a taboo subject. However, if you haven't got a plan in place and your beneficiaries don't know what that plan is, it can become an absolute nightmare. Not only are you having to deal with the death of a loved family member, you're now worried about money and finances. It is critically important to make sure that you understand that you have a will in place and that the beneficiaries the funds are intended to be left for understand who they need to contact in the event that you pass away. Very often financial advisors are utilized as the executors on their client's estate because they have a really good understanding as to the overall financial situation of the individual who has passed away and are able to carry out the wishes according to the deceased person's letter in the will. That's pretty much it. It's not very difficult to understand. Some people talk about dying intestate, so that's when you die without a will. It's a very, very complex part of the law, and so there's a link there at the bottom that you can click on and understand a little bit more about dying intestate. But in a nutshell, at a very high level, those are the very basics on probate and executor fees. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and share it. Thanks very much for watching.